Thank you, Manish, for joining us for the success story series. So before we get
Absolutely.
started, if you could just introduce yourself, tell us about your background, your work ex. Yeah, maybe begin with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I, I grew up in India, mostly in India. I spent a little bit, few years outside of India, but then finished my high school and stuff in India, and then um, I uh, I came to the UK to do my undergrad. So I studied at the University of Edinburgh, did an economics and finance degree. After that, I had a couple of different opportunities to join grad programs, what sort of banks run to take in analysts, and I had the opportunity to join JP Morgan in Edinburgh, so sort of continue living in a place where I'd done my undergrad and spent, 4 years of my life, or Standard Chartered and in their wealth management department in Mumbai. So that was a bit of a tough call. I didn't decide for at least a couple of months. But then sort of it came down to the reason I'd left India for my undergrad was because I wanted to spend time abroad, and I just felt a lot more comfortable in a more international setting. So I thought I'll just continue with that. So I've been with JP Morgan for about 5 years now. So I joined in the sort of fall of 2016, and I've been with the firm for just getting to about 5 years now. And around October last year, I felt like I was on track for, I'd already gotten promoted to associate. I was about to make senior associate, but I felt like sort of going down the path of, climbing up the ladder and doing things what I was doing, I wouldn't be doing as much of the things that I loved. I was sort of starting to give up all the sort of fun bits of my job as I was becoming a little bit more senior. And I was like, okay, something needs to be done here. So I had been talking to people for a while about what steps they take in their careers, lateral moves, jumping industries, etc. And an MBA figured in a lot of those stories, and that's how I sort of it was very organic how I started looking at an MBA. This was I was one of those people who said, the MBAs just make PowerPoints and make things pretty. But I found out speaking to people who've done it that it's not the case. Especially say my sister and my brother-in-law who've also done the MBA. So no, it's that gave me some context to start looking at applications. So around October last year, I decided let's sort of keep work to a limit, do essentially just what I need to do, and start focusing, spending time on doing the GMAT and start talking to people. So I did the GMAT on the 1st of December. Great that you get the score instantly. And I had about 4 weeks to apply for the round two or whatever, depending on the university you're applying to, whatever rounds. This January 1st, second week, there's a set of deadlines. So just targeted those deadlines. And yeah, and I mean, I think from then on, that's where I started speaking to yourselves and um, you know, went through the entire application process, went through the interview process, and sort of third, fourth week of March, found out that I got through side and LBS. So yeah, no,
Awesome.
that's what I am. Yeah.
Awesome. So, interesting you mentioned that, you thought you wanted to, focus on preparing for your MBA journey. So GMAT becomes the first aspect. How difficult was it to, manage work and preparing for GMAT? And like you had 4+ years experience, or how many years of experience before you, by the time you were applying?
So yeah, about I would say about 4 years, 3, 4 months of experience by the time I was applying,
Mhm.
which would be around December, January. So December, January 2020, 2021. But balancing stuff, I think, I mean, one of the sort of inadvertent like benefits of working from home or being in a job that where I get to work from home is that essentially any time that I would spend commuting, even if that was just an hour in the day, I would save that time. I would save being tired of that time, and I live in Edinburgh in Scotland, where it's pretty much raining. It rains for about 250 to 60 days a year. So I save time on drying myself and and all of that as well. So essentially, that chunk of time just got shifted to studying, and then once I think I started. So I did the standard, let's just take a test and where I stand approach, and the first results I got, I can't remember the numbers. It was uh, somewhere just under 700, and I thought that was encouraging enough uh, to as a decent enough starting point. So that pushed me to put in the hours initially. But what I don't know if I ever mentioned it to you directly, I've spoken to people in your team about this, is um, I started watching YouTube videos about like probability and stuff like that. And there was somebody who was in your team. I can't remember. I watched his videos, and it literally, I don't know what it was, but the way he was explaining it literally took me back to like high school. And I was like, this is the exact probability class that I needed. I don't need to remember, the formulas. I need to understand how to solve a problem. So I started going through all that. It's a bit tricky, but I think if you push for it, like I prepared for about 6 weeks, 7 weeks in total. And I think what was really helpful was putting the money down for the test so that there's a deadline. Because I think a lot of people I've spoken to, they start preparing and then they say, if I hit the score by like the third practice test I do, then I'll drop the money for the test, etc. But I think if you set yourself that goal where you've actually gone out and paid the money, that pressure becomes a lot more realistic, and then you can use that pressure uh, to drive yourself to do a little bit better. So yeah, that was the whole GMAT situation.
Right. So you said
Yeah,
6 weeks into your preparation, what was your final score?
it was 710,
Seven.
710.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once
So
you get the score, what goes in your mind? Because when you're applying to one of these top schools that you're eyeing for, what goes in your mind? Did you feel you were ready to apply, or did you feel you wanted to retake? What was on your mind?
so I think to tell you that something that I did throughout the entire process was I kept away from forums. I did not read a single thing, a single post from any forum uh, throughout the entire application process, because I know um, uh, there's a lot of posts like you know this is my GPA, this is my GMAT score, this is my work experience. Do you think I'll get into Harvard? I mean, honestly, if somebody could tell you that, then like, what is the Harvard admissions committee sitting there and doing? So I kept away from all that. All I went by was the median scores that the three schools that I was applying to had, and they were in the range of 690 to 700. Right? So one thing I did was just absolutely didn't go into forums. So I did not have any of that playing in my mind, saying what's I mean if I had this score, if I had that score, and what would my analytical be? I just went by the three schools that I was applying to, Oxford, Cambridge, and LBS. I went by what their median or average score, whatever they publish is. I think it's the sort of median between 20 to 80%. You take off the tails. Um, and looking at those scores, I said, if I get something above 700, sorry, I'm going to apply to these schools. So that was my very single point cutoff. If it's above 700, I'm going to apply. If it's not, then I'll retake it, and I'll rethink my strategy. Um, it was 710, and I said, okay, fine. So, I basically I came back from the test center, and I signed up I made accounts on all three portals and started looking at the questions. Until then, I had not done that. So it was very sort of a very cold-hearted and surgical approach to it.
And I,
Yeah,
I believe a wise thing to do, because these kind of posts does clutter your mind. And in fact, I always tell people I speak to that there's no formula to it, right? If I had the formula to it, I would have told you that this is exactly what you're supposed to do to get into a top school, right? But there is no
yeah,
formula, because these schools just want to see diversity and what you bring to the table, right? So if you can just
yeah.
focus on that aspect, that's what matters. And so yeah, so I think this is something that people should take away, that not get so focused on what other people are doing and saying, and
Yeah.
focus more on what you can do and what you can highlight in terms of your application.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like, it's just it's. yeah, what they're looking for is just like somebody who's very comfortable, I think, being themselves. And the more you let what other people doing influence you, I think the more confused you become about. I mean, everyone kind of knows who they are, but you let that get muddled up with all these forums and all
Yes.
these things. Yeah, yeah.
So how did you get in touch with Crackverbal? How did you know about us?
Oh, the YouTube algorithm has to be thanked for that. Like I'm being totally serious because um, I was on Crackverbal and a few other sort of pages who had these you know hour-long classes or virtual classes where they were talking through concepts and stuff. And 2 days after my GMAT, I had obviously stopped watching any of those videos. So the first thing, in one of those mornings, I woke up and I was just about to log into work, and I opened up YouTube to maybe play some music. And the first video was a video from Crackverbal saying, sort of MBA application strategies or something like that. And I think that was your co-founder who has that video up. And I was like, okay, cool. This is like totally up my alley. I will click on that.
Hmm.
So I clicked it, and I found out that so until then I had no clue that such a large industry was based around helping people make MBA applications. That was also a big revelation for me. So I found out, and yeah, you were. I mean, basically, I dropped you guys an email, and one of your team got in touch with me, and I said, right, okay. I mean, uh, I've seen some of the stuff that you guys do in terms of GMAT training, which was quite helpful, even though it wasn't sort of it was the free stuff that I could just find on YouTube. But I said, I mean, I'll just go with you guys.
Awesome. So tell us about your experience with the whole application process, the importance of having a mentor in the process, and how much time did you spend on your applications also? Because when you say application, it's not just about writing essays. There's a lot of research, talking to alums, looking at the school website, and trying to align your entire story towards what you want to focus on, right? And you're highlighting your strengths. So how did you go about that aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. So, so I'd been in touch with a few alums from LBS. LBS. I spoke to a few people from done their MBAs from the UK. There was one from Oxford, and a few from LBS. But and this is sort of from my personal network. But these guys were 2013, 2012 sort of classes. My sister's friends and those guys, and some of the other people I spoke to were people who had done some of the other courses at LBS, not the MBA. So that's where speaking to Pradyot, who I was in touch with through you guys, who met me through the whole essay process, was super helpful, because I think what happens is, as you're saying, right, like you're reading a lot of stuff about the schools, you're watching videos on YouTube, you're trying to find out through alums, and there's a lot of information that's going on in your head, and you're trying to sort of somehow uh, fit the pieces with what you have done in the past, and what's worked for you and stuff like that. So I think the most important thing that somebody like a mentor brings into this is to have a very impartial sounding board, because anyone that you might speak to who will listen to you in detail about your application is somebody who knows you well. You can't go to a stranger on the street and say, hey, please hear me out, or like a friend of a friend of a friend, because they won't make the time for you in order to hear your application out and give you sort of honest advice. Having somebody like Pradyut through that entire process, that is why it was so helpful, which is I could put something out there, and anyone in my network would see that through the lens of, I know what he's trying to say, and
Mm,
then read that.
mm,
But what happens when you have somebody like who doesn't know your entire story to read your essays, your first drafts, and give you feedback on those things, is that they actually don't know what you're trying to say. So they read it as if they would sit on an admissions committee, or they would, it's somebody basically reading it for the first time, admissions committee or not, right? So and that feedback helps you really like focus on the things that you need to, and bring points out a little bit more, and maybe target a few things that you might have thought were, but that's implied, you know. uh, the feedback that you might get is, well, where's this leading to, and you're like, but of course it leads to here or it leads to there, but that's not called out, that needs to be called out, so you cut down on words and stuff like that. And just like I think I spent about, I had maybe 4 to 5 weeks depending on the deadlines of these things, from when I started the application process to hitting submit on the three applications. I think it was January 5th, 8th, and 11th in the order of LBS, Oxford, and Cambridge. So I started maybe on December 5th or December 6th or something like that, working on these. And it took me about 2 weeks to sort out the first application. LBS is the most detailed application. They ask you stuff about everything in your life. And or essentially you have the opportunity, I want to put it differently, you have the opportunity to talk about everything in your life, rather than when you can keep talking about why private equity is the one place that, you know, all of humanity should end up in, and you know, and all of that. But you have the opportunity to talk about a lot of different aspects of your life.
Yeah.
So that's the one I focused on, and then the others were Cambridge was a little bit easier to do because it's a version of the LBS application. So you have your story, right? So, but it's always, what I found quite helpful was to, I know what I want to write, but I'm going to start a fresh draft. I'm not going to copy paste sections. And Oxford approaches things in a little bit different way, where they focus a lot more on your post MBA plans and what research you've done. So again, that was a fresh draft. So it's about, you know, a couple of weeks for the first ones for the ideas to formulate, and then you spend time like refining it.
Right.
Yeah.
I like what you said, you know, that the perspective of a mentor coming from an AdCom perspective, right? Because what happens is, typically when we write our essays, there's a lot of context we have to everything in our mind, right? So, especially even if your industry is different, it makes a lot of sense, because if you have a mentor from some other industries, also because they should not understand what you're trying to write, right? I mean, in your draft,
Yeah.
then you
Yeah.
make it more generic to make sure anyone who reads it should be able to understand what you're trying to say, right? And not use jargons and terminologies which are used in typically in your industry.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's that impartial sort of like feedback that you get from them, and you feel comfortable. I think it's very important, like the first few calls that you have with your mentor to you know, just develop some sort of a rhythm with them, and essentially establish trust, so you're able to put your, you know, whatever draft it is in front of them. So yeah.
Yeah.
So no, that was yeah, that was really nice
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
So applying, to three schools, and were you interviewed at Cambridge too, or how did that work?
No, I wasn't interviewed at Cambridge. So Cambridge, I did not get a call for an interview.
Okay.
It was only Oxford, and then I found out about LBS maybe 10 or 12 days later. And yeah, Oxford makes you do some sort of uh,
Video
a
essay.
video essay as part of the application, and LBS makes you do one only if you get to the video interview round.
Hmm.
So I mean, it's largely the same format. It's just, you know, do this after and do this before. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
In terms of the interview process, right? Was there, apart from the video interview and the essays part, when you actually meet, so were you interviewed by the admission committee, or were you interviewed by the alums? How did that work?
so, so Oxford, it was the admissions committee, and LBS, it was the alumni.
Oh,
Uh, so it was somebody who had graduated in the recent past, and worked in an area that I had a bit of interest in.
okay.
So so yeah, and very different formats of the interview. Obviously, the conversation is very different if you're speaking to somebody who's in the admissions committee, and if you're speaking to a recent alum from one of these schools. So yeah, like and the formats even. I mean, Oxford was significantly shorter. It was a 30-40 minute conversation, and very packed conversation. It was scheduled for 30 minutes. It went on for about 40. So that was kind of the lady to allow me 10 more minutes to just keep talking, basically. And LBS as well. It was scheduled for about an hour and a half, and I think we did good on time then. But it was very relaxed and very in both instances actually very
Right.
relaxed conversation, and all they're really looking to do is they're looking for reasons to take you in. They're not looking for reasons to eliminate you. I think that's yeah, that's one thing that really helps you like think about stuff, because I think a lot of times you look at the how many people got in. Is it 3%? Is it 4% of applicants? And it's like, how do I get into that and all that? I mean, it's not about that. The people you're speaking to genuinely hope that you get in, and they're the ones who are fighting your battle when they sit and discuss other applicants. So that was one thing to sort of remember, that someone told me that I found super helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, that's again a very important point, for future aspirants, that, they are looking at, building a case for you to take you in and not to, eliminate you. So that's again a very, very, very important and insightful point. So what
Yeah.
next? Now that you've decided LBS is the way to go, is there any pre-prep, or, what is the communication from the school? How are you planning to go about it?
I mean, it's been absolutely incredible. So uh, I mean, dare I say, like, I feel like the program has already started. There's a few social media platforms that sort of proprietary to the school, that we've all been onboarded on. All the round two admits and all the round one admits. There's conversations going on. I've spent the last couple of weekends, and the reason we couldn't do this call is because the last couple of weekends I had LBS events on in the afternoons.
Mm.
Uh, and and yeah, I mean, there's a welcome lecture. You hear from the dean, and it's people who've been admitted and offered a position who, in my case, the decision was sort of made. But in other people's cases who've gotten through other schools, and maybe they were conflicted, or they were confused about two schools, that was an opportunity for them to get to know the school a little bit better, uh, to get to meet the people who got through um, their rounds, and to speak to people, current students, alumni, etc. So the Students Association has been like super welcoming. They organized a few sessions last weekend, um, and no, it's been pretty cool. I mean, I already have spoken to a few people through the platform, and people are forming their own sort of groups. London meetup on beginning of May, and people looking for people in Frankfurt and Berlin. Is there anyone from here? Is there anyone from there? So things have already kicked off. It. I already feel like at some level the program's kicked off, and yeah.
Awesome.
So
And
that's
how is the cohort like? Is there, did you get to know about them too? Like, what is the mix of the cohort?
oh, like yeah, people from like so many different places, so many different industries. Lots of Indian Canadians, Indian Americans, British Indians, but also like people from so many different places. So I was speaking to somebody from Saudi Arabia, and we really hit it off. Very good conversation with him. Speaking to somebody from Canada, that was super cool. So yeah, I mean, I think the cohort is as promised and as advertised.
So,
Uh, yeah, definitely a good mix, and yeah.
yeah, awesome. So I'm feeling that excitement, and I'm excited for you too.
Yeah,
So congratulations, Manish. I think this is going to be
thank
awesome.
you.
I think maybe we should catch up again after you're done with your MBA, and talk about your MBA journey, and how it has been for you. I would love to know more about that. And at any point, if you
No,
need any help, please reach out to us, for anything. And thank you so much for giving me your time.
absolutely.
Absolutely appreciate it. And, thank you so much. I think,
No,
it's amazing talking to you. And I think there's some great points, which definitely, future aspirants will find useful to keep their, I think you are so sorted in your entire journey, right?
it sounds like that. That's the facade. That's the facade. There's a lot of chaos behind me, but yeah, that's the thing. I think it's about like trying to make as much sense of the chaos. And the thing is like, yeah, it is very tempting to go on those forums. It is very tempting to take the sort of easy way out sometimes. But yeah, it's just yeah.
Yeah, I guess it worked out. So all that, it ended well. So it's perfect. That's the
Yeah, yeah,
formula.
no, yeah.
So cool.
Just make sure you get in. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So
So
thank you so much, Manish. Really, really appreciate.
absolutely.
Yeah, and
Uh,
yeah, any last words of wisdom, we would love to hear.
uh, no, there's one thing that somebody told me very start of the process, was just because I looked at the fees for all these programs as well, and uh, it is not cheap. So like any of these programs. So one of the things that the very good piece of advice that I'd gotten was, don't let that play on your mind. You get in and the money will sort of like sort itself out. And at which point you're thinking, like you're looking at those figures and you're like, really? Do you really think this much money can sort itself out? And I think that again, like really helped me in terms of, just not think about, oh, should I be applying to a course maybe that's a little bit more affordable or something like that. It's just you apply for what you want to do. If you have your reasons, you sort it out. And the honest truth is, yeah, the money does sort itself out. So
Yeah.
there's lots of different options of things. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I thought I'd mention.
Right. In fact, a lot of people think about the ROI part of it. And so I always tell this that it's not like an ATM machine where you finish your MBA and suddenly, money is going to double for you. It's like a 3 to 7 year period. And also look at the career ahead, right? You have another 20, 30 years of your working life. And that's what
Absolutely.
you're trying to build. So it's more like an investment for you on yourself, to plan out the next 20, 30 years of your life.
Absolutely. And I mean, for all I mean, for 15 years, that doesn't lead to anything. But 15 years down the line, you get a call from one of your old classmates, and he says, you know, do you want to become the CEO of some company I funded? And it's like, and that will only happen through it. It does take time. So things like that. Yeah. So
Yeah,
um,
true.
absolutely, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Very super cliched, but it's true. you know.
True, true. All the best,
Yeah.
Manish. Very
Thank
happy
you so
for
much.
you and very happy for you too. And so, yeah, like I said, we'll catch up maybe after you finish your MBA and we'll talk more about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very happy to. Very
All right.
happy to.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so much.
Manish. Yeah. Okay,
Great.
bye.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right. Bye. Bye. Bye.